Ah, Kona. No, not this Kona, that Kona. Besides, this is a prop. It's empty, like my heart. I know the Kona EV is not new news, but owners of these cars absolutely love them, so it deserves a closer look. First and foremost, price and range. This machine with its 64 kilowatt hour battery pack will set you back $71,365. For that, it'll do 484 Ks on a charge. But my problem is how do I make an interesting video about a car that's so normal? I'll work on that. In the meantime, let me run you through the specs of this very sensible electric vehicle, starting with what you can't see. A large 64 kilowatt hour battery underneath the car, and a 150 kilowatt motor driving the front wheels, which is not bad for a family car. But it's inside where you're spending your time, and it's not a bad place to be so long as you don't mind dark plastic, with every option imaginable. A touchscreen display with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, lane keeping assist, adaptive cruise control, heated leather seats, a great safety rating, you name it. Now I should point out that I've already driven a Kona EV, this one in fact, when I made a review of a car sharing service. So I already know it has a great PSC of 43, as well as reasonable rear legroom, and even a fold down armrest for cup holders for rear seat passengers, and 332 litres of storage space in the boot, more than big enough for a misbehaving child. All in all, it's everything you'd want in a sensible family car which doesn't emit any carbon, which is obviously what you'd want if you actually like your kids and want them to have a future. But as a car, what's it like to drive? Okay, first of all, I just want to address the name, Hyundai Kona. This is a Korean car from the safe Korea, not the crazy one. And there's nothing remotely Hawaiian about this Kona. It's about as Hawaiian as pineapple on pizza, which is another thing that'll be stopped when I come to power. But the car itself, the seating position is comfortable. It's more set up and big than a Tesla Model 3. The lateral support is better than in a lot of sportier cars I've been in. It's a really practical car. It's buttons, not touchscreen display. Everything's buttons. It's really normal. It's a really normal car. It's not pretentious. It doesn't try to be anything it's not. It's spacious. It's comfortable. It just seems like the perfect family vehicle. The thing is it though? To find out, I need some children. Now, I don't have kids because back in 1998 I had a Tamagotchi and I kept that alive for about 3 minutes. So it's probably for the best. But I do have the next best thing. De facto children. Yes, I'm exploiting the elderly again because they're often small just like children in an effort to see if this really is a decent family car. Alright, so first of all, how is the legroom back there?
Yeah, good. Yes. Yeah, we're not very tall.
No. Oh good, okay, so you guys are going to be my de facto children. I'll try my best to keep you all alive. Okay, so you're going to be the son I never had. I should introduce you. So Dennis, this is my grandmother, Patricia, and this is Anne.
I think we've met before.
Oh, so you know each other? Now, you've been in a Tesla, you've been in an electric car, but Dennis, you have not been in an electric car before.
No, it's straight away. There's no sound.
It's very quiet.
What I found, Anne, when you're a backseat passenger, you can hear what's being said in the front because there's no noise.
Yes.
Usually you can't.
No.
Oh, no, I struggled in the back of a car. Yes, we said we'd be good this time.
Yes, you better behave, or I'm turning this car right back. We won't be going to the picture show.
Oh.
Yeah, I remember those days. Oh, how much longer are we going to be?
No, you've all been to the toilet, I hope.
Yeah.
It's so smooth, isn't
It is very smooth. Well, that's just it. Are you comfortable back there?
Yes.
Good. So there is enough leg room for both of you after all?
Yes, there is.
Okay, good.
We're in shorties.
Very good. You're appropriately child-sized. That's good.
That's true.
Yes. You kids have your gold cards with you?
Oh, Dad, I didn't think we'd be called on for that.
What's your verdict, kids?
Lovely.
Yes.
All right.
I said, if you want to give it away, we'll take it.
All right. So we've got the kids' seal of approval. That's good.
Yeah.
Lovely.
That went very well. Now it's time to put the car through another test. For this, I need to stop at a dairy. The next family-focused test aimed to see how durable the interior really is against children, so I rocked up to the beach, armed with an ice cream. Alright, I'm already very uncomfortable about this idea. The thing is, kids tear up interiors, right? If you've got kids, you know that, there's chip wrappers and chips themselves and ice cream and everything blobbed all over the carpet in the interior. So what I'm going to do is eat an ice cream. The idea of doing this makes me uncomfortable. Eat an ice cream and splob some onto the interior. Okay, here we go. Oh, it's leaking already. Honestly, choc bars are the best ice cream, and I have not had one in about 3 years. The very idea of slobbing ice cream onto a beautiful car interior that has been cleaned just for me makes me very uncomfortable. If you think this is sad, look at yourself. You're watching a video of a middle-aged man eat an ice cream. Oh, we've got some drops going on. Man, this thing is colder than the other side of the bed. Oh, here we go, yay! Oh. The ice cream experiment was taking too long, so I sped things up a bit. And I got a bit carried away. Alright, now I've got to leave it in the sun for a bit, let it melt, let it really get into that interior. And then the ultimate test will be to see if I can clean it as if nothing ever happened. That will really determine how hard wearing this beautiful leather interior is. And fast forward an hour, I got out the car cleaning heavy artillery. Alright, I have a bucket of mild soapy water, which is to get rid of the sugary residue. Then I have some leather conditioner. Let's see if this is going to bring that back to its former glory. I did my best to remove the oils and sugar residue on the soft leather, but I was getting worried. Oh, that's not good. Not good, not good. It's leaving stains from where the fats and oils were. Had the Kona EV met its match? Nervously, I kept on cleaning. Oh yeah, look at that. Even the chocolate and the stitching has come out. And lastly, I applied some leather conditioner. And there we have the perfect crime. Second test passed with flying colours. It is safe for families. With the leather coming up as good as new, it was time for the final test, involving pedestrian safety, recreating the famous Euro NCAP automatic braking test. And as you can see, the Ecotricity engineering department spared no expense. This next test is a real-world test, and what I want to do is see if the emergency braking system works as it should. According to Hyundai, this car will detect cyclists and pedestrians. And here's my child-sized pedestrian, which I'm going to throw out onto the road, make sure it stops in time. If this test is successful, it's fantastic. If not, then I'm down a cool electric toy, which I never got to review. So let's give it a shot. Obviously, I'm not using a real-sized doll because they use heavy plastics, and if this test fails, it'll damage the car. So I used an inflatable, child-sized adult, because obviously inflatable children, for very many good reasons, don't exist. All right, here we go. Well, that answers that question. Right, I think we need a bigger doll. How bad is it? Oh no, it might be fixable. Yeah, we might try that test again at a later date. Yeah, this is obviously a prototype. Yeah. Okay, anyway, on to something a bit more serious. That serious thing is climate change, but there's something you can do which does make a difference, can save you bucket loads of cash, and can be done with just a few mouse clicks, and that is joining Ecotricity. It's New Zealand's only carbon zero certified electricity provider, enabling you to get on the right side of history. Head to ecotricity.co.nz now to make a positive change, and while you're there, click on the EV Buyer's Guide to find the specs and prices of every electric vehicle on sale in New Zealand right now, including this one, which was about to take me on a massive long-distance journey. And this is it. I'm now starting the longest ever drive on one charge in my life. I've never driven this far. And New Plymouth's kind of like a pilgrimage for me, because back in 2007, I saw a movie while I was living in New Plymouth called Who Killed the Electric Car, and it spurred me into wanting an electric vehicle. But this is 2007, the Nissan Leaf didn't even exist yet. Tesla was just still starting out with their early roadsters, so I had no choice but to buy an old Mitsubishi that had a blown gearbox and a blown engine, dragged it home with the help of a good mate of mine, and then over the next 9 months, I spent the arduous task of converting this dead gas burner into pure electric power. And it was an absolute adventure, but I got there in the end, and I ended up having one of the first few electric cars in New Zealand, but I had to make it myself because, legacy car makers like this weren't making them at the time. So it's kind of like an adventure to go back to my electric car roots, and what better car to do it in than a car that can do 484 k's on a charge. Incredible. The problem is, it's a hot day. The forecast said it was going to be cold and miserable, but it's hot and sweaty, so I'm going to have to turn on the air conditioning. I noticed this car has driver only as an option, which is brilliant. That's going to save me some electricity, because boom, already I can see 30 odd k's have just disappeared off the gasometer. Let me put it on to driver only, turn the fan down a bit. All right, that's got me back another 10 k's of range. And another thing I can do is change the driving mode to, no, it's not sport, to eco. Here we go. So now we're in eco mode. And already that's bumped the range up another 10 k's. So we should be okay. But right now I've got to get this thing on the motorway and play with some of the features. Something interesting about this car is that Hyundai have called it the Kona. They've named it after the place in Hawaii. Hyundai say that they've done this because the sort of person that buys this car reflects that sort of Hawaiian lifestyle. That being said, in Portugal, the name Kona has a very different meaning. I'm not going to tell you what it is because this is a family show. That might be why it's so popular. This is the 5th best-selling electric car in New Zealand, and that's probably because it has a lot of features. It has lane keeping assist, adaptive cruise. It's a very safe car, full of cup holders, all the things a family could want, but it also has 150 kilowatts at its front wheels. So what I'm going to do now as we're settling into a long drive is put the adaptive cruise on, put the lane keeping assist on, and settle in. Let's give it a go. Okay, so first of all, adaptive cruise. Let's set that to boom. Okay, we're now doing we're doing 93 k's an hour, and let's put the lane keeping assist on. Boom. Okay, I have to keep my hands on the wheel, but it's essentially now driving itself. This is really a comfortable car. Maybe that's because the suspension is designed for the Korean market. It's a little bit softer than a lot of cars designed for the New Zealand or Australian market. But that's okay because I like a comfy car on a road trip. So let's settle in, get comfortable, because we've got 4.5 hours of driving ahead of us. It wasn't hard to settle into this car considering the suspension is set up for comfort rather than cornering, which could be a pro or a con depending on your driving style. And that brings me to my next point. Why do owners love these cars so much? Honestly, this car handles well for what it is. It's not a sports car, it's a regular family car. But because the battery pack, the majority of its weight, is slung right down low against the road, it handles much better than it should. As far as I can tell, this has suspension designed for the Korean market, so it's typically a little bit softer than cars designed for the New Zealand market. We'll figure that out when I get into the Awakino Gorge later. I'll no doubt be stuck behind a truck, but I'd love to throw it into some corners and see how it fares. As for the car itself, I asked Hyundai Kona EV owners what they like so much about this vehicle, and some of the responses were interesting. The most popular reason people like this car is because it's normal, it's conventional. For example, yes, it has a girthy 8-inch display here and a 10-inch display there, but otherwise everything else is using knobs and buttons. It's traditional. You don't have to learn how to reuse the car again, and there's no fixation on it being all touchscreen this, touchscreen that, like so many vehicles I've been in. Another thing people like about it is the guessometer that guesses how far you can go per charge is supposedly very accurate. We'll find that out. Another thing people like about it is the range, 484 k's per charge, supposedly. We'll figure that out as well. And another thing people like about it is the efficiency. It is using 11.7 kilowatt hours per 100k right now, which is very good. Overall, it's just a decent machine. I'm struggling to find too many faults with it. It seems to do its job well. I mean, what more can you ask for out of a car, I guess? And before long, I was about halfway in my big electric car journey from Auckland to New Plymouth on one charge. And here we are in Ticuity, and what I'd normally do when I lived in New Plymouth and made this journey many times a year is I'd stop and get gas. Holy crack-a-barrel, have you seen the price of fuel? Oof, no thank you. But yeah, I don't need to stop. This thing has plenty of range remaining, 326 k's of range remaining. This is brilliant, man. This is the future, and it's available today. You can buy one now. All right, so now we're into the more windy part. This is where it's going to eat up a lot of that range. And I'm also going to have a lot of fun with the twisty-turny bits, so let's crack into it. With the windows down and some K-pop turned up, I threw this Korean sofa on wheels into some New Zealand corners, which was great fun as it was way out of its comfort zone. I'm in New Plymouth. I made it. Far out. 5-hour journey, so I'm a bit zonked. Now I've got to go and use the rapid charger, which is in here somewhere. Oh, there it is. Oh, what a sight for sore eyes this is. Okay, let's get this thing charged up. We have 29% state of charge, which is much more than I thought we would. That is pretty impressive. Okay, time to refuel this beast. Swipe the key fob, plug it in, and we're good to go. Whew. Okay, we are charging and the car air conditioning is running just fine. It's now sipping away 40 kilowatts from this rapid charger, and it says it's going to take me 40 minutes to reach 80% charge. 80% charge is more than enough for me to drive 5 hours back home to Auckland, but I'm not going to do that because I am exhausted. Now, normally I take electric cars to ChargeNet's 300 kilowatt chargers, the hyper rapid chargers that can recharge cars like the Audi e-tron GT in 20 minutes. But there's no point, because this car, one of my criticisms about this car is that it can only charge a maximum 77 kilowatts. So there's no point taking it to a hyper rapid charger. One of the hundreds of these regular rapid chargers around New Zealand will do absolutely fine. And in 40 minutes, I'll be able to do another 5 hours, 355 k's north to Auckland, but I won't, because unlike the car, I'm out of energy. I'm going to stay the night here in New Plymouth. I'm zonked. That being said, while this might have just been an interesting video for you, it has been revolutionary for me. I've just driven 5 hours, 355 kilometers on one charge. Now, keep in mind, my first electric car that I told you about earlier, I could maybe do 20 k's on that max. Then the second electric car I had back in Europe, maybe I could do 120 k's on that. And now here I am a few years later in a car that can do 500 kilometers per charge if you drive it economically. This is a monumental deal, because I've been following electric car technology for about 20 years. And to see how far they've come in that time is mind-blowing. And it makes me so excited about where the technology is going and where it'll be in another 20 years. If you were wanting to charge this thing at home with the trickle charger that comes with the car, you can, but you're looking at about 36 or so hours to charge it, so it's not worth it. My advice to you, what I tell everyone, get a 7 kilowatt wall charger from any company. I've heard good things about these guys, EV Next. If they want to buy me a cup of tea for all this promotion I'm doing for them, that's cool. They're not paying me a cent for this. I've just heard really good things about them. But otherwise, I'm a tired little Kiwi. It has been a long day. I've got just enough time to go and grab myself a drink and then go and catch up with a mate of mine. I'm going to spend the night here in New Plymouth because I'm far too tired to drive all the way back. The carbon-based meat bag behind the wheel is the weak point in all of this, not the car. The car's full of energy. It's almost ready to rock and roll now. But I can see why this is the 5th best-selling electric car in New Zealand, because it's a car designed for exactly what the average motorist wants. They want something that's reliable, something that costs virtually nothing to operate, and something that's safe and comfortable and has all the gadgets you could want. And this has it all. The only thing it doesn't have is coolness factor. You can't really look cool in a Kona EV. I'm sorry, Kona EV owners, but you know it deep down in your heart. It's an excellent car, but it's not a cool car. Trying to look cool in one of these is like trying to look cool while walking through a spider web. You know, you just can't do it. Having said that, I'm done. It has been a superb machine. Well done, Hyundai. You've made a real winner of a car. It may not be the most exciting thing on wheels, but it's an excellent vehicle all around. I think for the case of the Hyundai Kona, its strength lies in its normalness. Gosh, I wish mine did.